Welcome to Love with Francesca, where we deep dive into conversations about relationships, self-love, and the empowering journey to authentic connection and healing. Today, I have a lovely woman that I unfortunately have not yet met in person, but have met online. Rebecca, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Me too. I had such a great time meeting you and then speaking on your podcast. And I was like, there's a vibe here. I like this girl. So I was like, can you come on mine and can we have a chat again?
Yes, no, I definitely had the same vibe. I think we had some really powerful conversations. And for me, I was like, we need to have a part two. So this is our part two. And I'm
Yes.
so excited to dive in.
Amazing. So very quickly, I'll just share a little bit about you for those who are listening today. So Rebecca is a holistic empowerment coach. She's dedicated to helping women reconnect with themselves, rediscover their self-worth, and create lives filled with alignment, confidence, and joy. She guides women on a journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and holistic wellness, empowering them to heal from within and thrive in their authentic power. There's so much more that I know that you do, but before we dive into all that, can you tell me a little bit about like where you were, what happened, what got you to becoming this incredible holistic wellness coach?
Yeah. I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I was really tossing and turning between the real pivotal moment of where it all started for me because to me, I feel like life is a series of lessons, of experiences, of situations that really shape us. And I really can't think back to when the moment was or when I read something. But if I had to, I guess, narrow it down to one, I guess, moment where a lot of things changed for me, it was actually during COVID time. But to take it back before I had my moment where I guess rock bottom happened and I knew I needed to change. Growing up, I didn't have a bad childhood. In fact, I had a good childhood. I was blessed with beautiful parents, a beautiful, stable home. But I really developed through my teenage years a lot of anxious attached controlling behavior. I looked self-confident on the outside and I really showed up in a way that may have looked like I was a confident person, but internally I was struggling. I had the worst inner dialogue. I was so self-conscious. I was just crippled, absolutely crippled with anxiety. I cannot tell you how bad my anxiety was. And I think back to my younger self, and I just hold her tight because, you know, when you're in the monks of it all and shit just feels so hard, you can't see that end of the light sometimes. And I had many relationship breakdowns. I've never been in a relationship that I wasn't cheated on. So, I had all these things happening to my poor younger self. And, you know, it wasn't until COVID time happened and my partner actually moved away for work because, we needed to have an income. And I wasn't working at the time. I actually lost my job, but we can get into that another time. But basically, I lost my job as a teacher and I was left in a town in four walls by myself. I couldn't go out to see anyone. It was so crippling. And I was in a really, really bad state. And I remember going to, I remember one day I was like, I can't keep living like this. I had suicidal thoughts. It was a really, really dark moment of my life. Um, and I remember going to bed and I just remember saying, whoever's out there or if there's a higher love or a higher power, like, I need you right now. Like, please show me, support me through this. Show me what I need to do to heal. And I remember going to sleep that night. And I remember having a dream. And I've always been quite a spiritual person in a sense, but this here was my first big moment. And I remember having a dream, and I don't remember the exact dream itself, but I remember waking up with a very big a word in my head. And it was the most bizarre word to me at the time. And the word was fawn. And I remember waking up and I'm like, okay, thanks for helping. I do not know what this bloody word means. Do you mean like a bloody deer or something? Like, what is a fawn? So I actually dismissed it for a little bit. And I went and I got up, I did my thing, my morning routine, and this word was just in my head. And I'm like, okay, Rebekah, you asked for a sign, you asked for guidance. This here is what they gave you. Look into it. And I sat down, I looked into the word, and that is when I developed, oh, sorry, that is when I realized that fawn is a coping response. It's a nervous system response. It's about people pleasing. It's about codependency. And it opened up so many doors that I now navigated. I learned about, I built so much of awareness. I couldn't believe what this opened up for me to dive deep. And I realized that the power lies within me. It's a healing journey. It's an awareness journey. And that was kind of the snowball of it all, I guess. I went inwards, I learned about myself, to now, like, and like, this is such a short little snippet, but like to where I am now, like, I'm confident, and it's not even like what I look like on the outside. Like, that doesn't even matter really to me. It's an internal confidence. It's a self-worth. It's a self-love. I never used to be able to look at myself in the mirror and like love what I saw. I couldn't even do it. Now it's not like that. Like, I am in such a better mental space. I, yeah, honestly, my journey from where I was to where I am now is so profound. And it's about awareness. It's about, being conscious of your thoughts. It's the small things that have a massive impact. And when you can nail those small things and have trust in your journey, like, it's incredible what can happen. So yeah, that was kind of
Thank
a lot,
you. That
but
was that
but that
was
was, yeah,
perfect. Thank you for sharing all that, and thank you for being so honest and
yeah,
transparent
of
about your
course.
journey and the things that you've been through. I mean,
Yeah, of
I got
course.
shivers at a few moments. There was so much that I could relate to, whether it was like looking at yourself, like not being able to look at yourself in the mirror without like immediate, I mean, I'm putting
Mm,
words in your mouth, but I'll say my experience, but just like immediate critique and like,
yeah.
just judgment and everything. And going through periods where you're just feeling so down that you're like,
Mm,
please, something, somebody, like, guide
yeah.
me. And then
Hmm.
getting guidance and being like, what? Like, what does this
Yeah.
even mean? I don't know what to do with this. And it's just so tricky to navigate all that. And,
Yeah.
also just thinking back to like the way in which you also just started phrasing it about like your childhood, it is so complicated because obviously there's situations where like evident trauma happens or evident neglect
Mm,
or abuse happens or maybe there's like mental illness in the family or alcoholism, like very clear
hmm.
signal of like here's
Yeah.
where things went wrong, this is why I feel this way.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, especially people that I work with at a coaching level,
Mm,
their sense of uneasiness, of discomfort, the emotional issues that they have are so much harder to pinpoint because there isn't this like clear, obvious
mm,
moment where everything went wrong. And
absolutely.
I'm curious for you, it makes people kind of feel a little bit crazy when you can't pinpoint the cause and effect
Mm,
of what you're feeling because it's like is there something wrong with me that I'm like
mhm,
that I feel this horrible about myself? Did you kind of
mm.
experience that in your journey?
Yeah, honestly, 100%. And I just want to emphasize, right? It's a journey. And I think when you have acceptance for your journey and just allow yourself to grow and learn as you go, having acceptance is the deepest form of self-love. So not
Mm,
trying to be anyone that you're not trying to change yourself, because I think at the end of the day there's this stigma around, you need fixing or you're broken and this is how you fix yourself. I don't believe that. I believe that everyone at their core is pure love. I think that through situations and stuff, we get pulled in different directions. But if we can just come back to ourselves and bring awareness to, our actions and our thoughts, that's when we can have those big growth moments. And yeah, I definitely had times where I was thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I like this? Why am I acting like this? But if you're already at that state, I think a powerful realization is to realize you're already at that awareness stage. There is so many people that are not aware of them doing things. They're not aware that their behavior is affecting them in the same way. They're kind of just in this autopilot world. So if you're already questioning and kind of getting curious about why I'm like this, or why do I act like this, or where does this stem from, know that you're on the right path. You're on the right path and you're taking the right steps to get where you need to be. And I sometimes I still go through this. I still have moments where I've meditated on it. I've sat in stillness to try and quiet the outside noise, to really, allow myself to have that voice come up and my intuition to help guide me. But sometimes I feel like the subconscious mind is protecting us. And although it's great to go into that subconscious level, rewrite your programming, and all that type of stuff, sometimes if you have acceptance that you don't need to know the exact thing and the exact moment that caused it, I think that's a powerful moment in itself. So for me, this recently just happened. I'm going through a few things, and we're always growing, right? We're always going through things. No one is ever healed. It's a journey. There's no destination. So even myself, I still go through things all the time. And there is something that I know has occurred. On a subconscious level, I'm very much aware of it. On a conscious level, I'm not. And I have done the work to try and dive deep, to try and figure out what that is, try and do inner child work. And sometimes it just doesn't come up. And that could be a protection thing. But the thing is, that's okay. What I do is I just either ask my subconscious to bring it up so I can heal, because in order to heal, we need to feel, right? And I'm a big believer in that. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think if you can just say and accept that whatever you're protecting me from, I am ready to acknowledge it. I am ready to heal from it. I am ready to grow from it and have acceptance. And I think just saying that, believing in that, it kind of drops that facade of needing to know the exact thing to fix it. It's just the steps, right? It's the steps of movement, of progressing forward. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I know. I love that you included all that. Before getting on this call with you, I was guiding a meditation for this like volunteer program that I have, and it has to do with like hair pulling and skin picking and nail biting and all those things. So as I'm guiding this meditation, I introduce in the meditation the idea of a mirror, because like most people that struggle with this,
Mm.
like mirrors are
Yeah.
just like, enemy number one. But I was like,
Mm.
let's do a little bit of exposure therapy and just throw it in there and see how it goes. And one of the girls that I know struggles with skin picking, she told me that when I introduced the mirror, her brain just like did not stick with like the meditation exercise that
Yeah.
originally she had been able to stick with. And I kind
Yeah.
of shared this similar thing with for her, but for the group too, of like you're so right, of there's times where we're not ready yet to face something or deal with something. We maybe don't have the resources, the internal resources, obviously,
Yeah.
in order to cope
Mhm.
with whatever's going to come up, or whatever, feelings or emotions are going to come up. So I was like, listen, as you guys work on yourself and you come to these support groups and you do these meditations, like, there's ever a moment where you're not able to stay with the meditation, don't judge yourself, don't blame yourself. Maybe it's
Mm.
just not the time to face those things, and that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think this is like a great part to even bring in the nervous system, right? And that is the internal resources. And can we chat about nervous system?
Please, of
For
course. I'm currently
amazing.
working on mine, so yes, let's chat
Yeah.
about it.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, when I discovered the nervous system, the impact the nervous system has, it blew my freaking mind. And for anyone that's not sure what I'm talking about, to cut it really short, basically, your nervous system is like your internal compass. You may have heard of like fight and flight. That is responsible, your nervous system is responsible for that. And basically, your nervous system, if you think of it as a window, you have this middle section, and this here is your window of tolerance. This is where you're feeling good. You're not feeling aggravated. You're not feeling aroused. You're just feeling easy, calm, at peace. Now, above that is your hyper tolerance, and that is when you go into flight state. Below it is when you go into freeze state. And when you are in any of those other states, except for that middle ground, that middle window of tolerance, you cannot problem solve. You cannot think straight. You cannot, it just, nothing works. Basically, your body just goes and tries to keep itself safe. You can't think, you can't do anything. And it literally disrupts everything. And understanding nervous system work was a big reason why I got into holistic wellness, because I think we really underestimate how connected we are, from our brain to our gut, from our energetics, all of that. And a prime example of that is, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I have all these like
I'm
ideas and
following.
thoughts, and I'm like, this is so important, and this is so important to get out, I feel.
Yeah, go
To the
ahead.
point where, you know, anxiety is a really big thing, right? And I would be interested to know if anyone on the call has ever met someone that has anxiety and does not have gut health problems. And for me, I was like, holy shit, no, that's actually so true. Let me dive into that a little bit more. So basically, from your gut, from your large intestines to your brain is something called the vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve is attached to what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, your nervous system has the two states, parasympathetic and sympathetic. And how I was talking about before, the fight and flight, that's your sympathetic. You want to try and like avoid, well, not avoid, because it is important, it does keep us safe to a degree. But also, getting out of our comfort zone is not unsafe. Our body just thinks it's unsafe. So there's a time and place for it, but ideally, we want to stay in that parasympathetic state. And what happens is when we are in the sympathetic state for too long, our vagus nerve basically goes AWOL. It doesn't really function properly anymore. And what that causes, a big thing, is serotonin. A while back, so serotonin is like your mood stabilizer, it affects your digestive, all that type of stuff. Once upon a time, they thought serotonin, because they think, where your mind is, where your brain is, that's how you feel, that's how you act, all that type of stuff, which is true. Serotonin is produced in the brain. That's what they thought. It's actually been proven that 90% of your mood stabilizer, your serotonin, is produced in your gut. Your gut health is directly impacting your mental health, the way you think, the way you see things. So it's all connected. Your nervous system regulation, that vagus nerve that stabilizes your mood to keep you calm, cool, collected, regulated. If you've got bad health, you ain't going to be thinking straight. You are going to be in a dysregulated state all the time, basically. So yeah, like that's crazy. I've just found that so incredible.
Yeah, it is really interesting and so fascinating. And thank you for explaining that as well as you did, because I was listening to you and I was like, yeah, I know this stuff, but I'm not a big, you're more of a teacher than I am. So you did that beautifully. Um, so I agree with you. It's so helpful because I think going back to talking about like when we're struggling with mental health issues or whatever it is, we
Mm,
start feeling like something's wrong with us. What's
mm,
beautiful is that, and thank you for introducing the nervous system and how it works and how to regulate ourselves and everything, because once we figure out that there's actually a whole system working for us, not against
yes.
us, and
Yeah.
understanding how that system works, we can then
Mm,
learn how to govern and regulate that system instead of being just like absolutely controlled by it.
Yes, absolutely. And having that awareness of what are your triggers? Where are your baselines? What is going to push you out? Because, referring back to how you were speaking about your clients and mirror work and, that was too much for them. It's because their nervous system was going, this is too much for me. Retreat back, retreat back. This is not safe for me to do that. And it's about taking those small steps. Once you have an awareness of where your baseline is, you can slowly start building and building and building and building. And soon enough, that window of tolerance gets bigger and bigger, and you're able to do those things. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking the same, like, oh my God, I can't even look at myself in the mirror. Don't push yourself to look in the mirror. Start slowly. Start with the words you're saying to yourself. Start with your physiology. Like, how are you showing up? Are you slouched over? Is your head down? Start with that. Head up, shoulders back. That in itself, like you'll be able to feel like if you're at home now, like do that. Like put your shoulders back, head up, have a deep breath, and already you can feel like, right, I'm like, it's a little bit of a shift of like a powerhouse. I've got this, I've got this. And then you can build up to the mirror work because it is a big shift and it is a big thing, but you will get there.
You will get there, yes. Yeah, and right, like exposing yourself to something, because I
Mm,
think for both you and I, like we can talk about where we were and where we are now, but that took, at least I think for you as well, like that took years to get to
mm,
where I am now. And a lot of it had to do with exposing myself to the situations that scared me and terrified me, or like
yeah.
brought up all these like really intense feelings and emotions that I had no clue how to deal with. And a lot of it was like, again, retraining my nervous system to be like, hey,
Yeah.
we can go stand in front of a mirror and
Mhm,
we can slowly learn to rewire and retrain not only our interpretation of us, our interpretation of the
mhm,
mirror, and the way in which now we talk to ourselves.
mhm,
Because the thing
mhm.
is that then, like, if I have to avoid a mirror, like, whatever, life goes on. But if the thing that I'm terrified of, for example, like I've been really struggling to create like a consistent working out habit. Been
Mhm,
working on it for years. I think we're almost there, but baby steps. But anyway, so I used to really dread working out because I realized that when I would show up to work out, that critical brain turned on immediately. And it was like, you're not
mhm,
doing this right, and
mhm,
you're not doing that right, and you're going too slow, and the teacher's going way faster, and everyone else is doing this better than you, and like blah, blah, blah.
mhm,
And it's
mhm.
like, well, obviously I'm going to avoid working out if working out means having to listen to someone scream at me and like horribly, just treat me horribly. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, of
it's
course.
like retraining your nervous system to be like, listen, and the thing is you do kind of need to work out. Like you do need to exercise. You know better than I do.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good for us for so many
Oh,
reasons.
100%.
So
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And a lot of it has been through nervous system regulation and like
Yeah.
becoming aware of what happens when you're in that room, in the exercise
Mm.
room. How do you
Mhm,
talk to
mhm.
yourself? How do you feel? Are you
Yeah.
able to set boundaries with like the little voices in your head that are telling you that you're
Mm.
worthless and not good enough?
Mhm. Yeah, no. I had so many things pop up when you were speaking about that because I think you're so right. And, you know, I think if you take it back and, if going to the gym puts you in a state of fight and flight, don't go to the gym yet. Work
Yeah.
your way up to that. Do home workouts until you feel like a little bit more confident in your body, in the way you move. It's the way you speak yourself, like you said. It's building your self-worth, your self-esteem, and it's all a journey, right? But I think I want to just touch on how you said about putting boundaries up to your inner voice that speaks and is critical of you. I did a podcast a little while back, and it was letting go of the worry trap, and that basically touched on that little voice in your head, and I kind of described it as like a tug of war. I'm on one end, my little inner critics on the other end, and you will just go back and forwards. I'll say something, they'll say something, I'll say something, and it's this game of tug of war, and you will not win. The way to win is drop the friggin' rope. Stop the conversation, drop the rope. Say, I'm hearing you, I see you, but I'm not engaging in this conversation right now. Take a few deep breaths, and distance yourself from that inner voice. Because when we can drop it, it's going to stop feeding in. And I know that might sound crazy talking to yourself and going, I'm not having that conversation with you. But like there's so much power in just acknowledging that voice, putting distance and acknowledging the emotion, but not becoming the emotion. And I think that's so powerful to learn as well.
100%. I remember there was a few years ago I was in this like group therapy. We had to do this group therapy course for my
Mhm,
graduate program, and the therapist kept on telling us like speak of the emotion, not from the
mhm,
emotion. And it took
mhm.
weeks before I understood what that meant. But it
Yeah,
is really powerful being able to
it is.
just take a little bit of distance between you and the feelings or you and the
Mhm,
thoughts and look at them
mhm.
rather than just being like completely absorbed by them.
Yes, totally agree. It took me ages to understand, you can acknowledge the emotion, but you're not the emotion. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm
Yeah.
sad. I'm bloody sad. Like, what do you mean distance myself? I'm sad in this moment.
Yeah.
And for me, it was kind of acknowledging I can be sad, but my behavior doesn't have to add to the sadness. I can
Yes.
distance myself. I can be angry inside, but I don't have to act in an angry manner. If you can put distance between what you're feeling, step away. And once again, it's the breath. And I know it's so like cliche. Everyone's like, take a few deep breaths. But sometimes those cliche, simple things that everyone is saying, the small
Yeah.
stuff is the stuff, but then you're not doing the stuff. People
Yeah.
just try and overcomplicate stuff.
Yes. Yes, guilty for that as well. Can you talk to
Yeah.
us a bit about the value of the breath and the effect that it has on us when we are able to regulate our breath?
Yeah, of course. So I love breath work. I'm actually going to a breath work session on Sunday this week, which I'm so excited about. And, I think the breath is directly related and connected with how you feel, as you know, and is related to your nervous system. Once again, it's this nervous system work, right? Now, when you're in a state of, say, anxiety, right? If you sit with your body when you're in a state of anxiety, what does that feel like? Your chest is tight, your breathing's really erratic, like it's going crazy, it's going, you're hyperventilating almost. And what the breath does, it allows you to calm your nervous system, calm your state of being. And, I'm still on this incredible journey with my breath and the power of breath work. And, even on the flip side of that, like if you look into breath work, it's not only to regulate and calm yourself, but you can also do techniques to give you more energy. Like it's the alternating nasal breath, and like that's incredible. But the power of the breath is everything. That is what connects us to our body, to our energetic world. It's literally, I would say, the most important thing to anything. It really is because it connects us with everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I appreciate you explaining all this. So I work with a lot of women that struggle in relationships, and my goal is to help women that struggle. Oh, let me not mess up the mic. That struggle in these relationships, and
Yeah.
they have a hard time standing up for themselves, and they have a hard time communicating what they need, and they have a hard time managing their emotions and regulating themselves.
Mhm.
And so all that impacts the relationship, right? But
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
as you probably have experienced, when people tend to look for help in terms of like working with us, typically their
Mhm.
first question isn't like, hey, help me regulate my nervous system. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, my partner's mistreating me, or my mom's mistreating me, or my
Mm.
whatever is mistreating me. And so, and it takes a little bit of time before I can help them understand like all of that you're
Mm.
experiencing outside is a
Yeah.
reflection of what's happening inside. And so sometimes I
Absolutely.
feel like people hear conversations like ours and they're like, well, how is like this conversation about breath work and nervous system going to help me with
Yeah.
like my boyfriend that's like ignoring me half the time? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
exactly how, because it's about going inwards and it's about learning what's coming up for you, for example,
Mhm.
if he is ignoring you, right? Because
Mhm.
whatever happens when he ignores you, whatever gets triggered inside of you, and then you're
Mhm.
acting on it, is somehow, some way,
Mhm.
continuously recreating this dynamic and this pattern that you have with him. But you have to
Yeah.
be able to see that you have a role, not that it's your
Hmm.
fault, but you have a role that
Hmm.
you're playing in this dynamic, and that's why it
Hmm.
keeps occurring in your life, probably not just with your partner, but also probably with other people in your life, because it's a pattern that's also coming from you.
Yeah, 100%. I Two things on that. I
Yeah.
think that everyone, every situation, everything that happens is a reflection or a mirror. And I think the moment you can take 100% responsibility of your life, and I know it's uncomfortable to have this realization, but the life you live right now is a combination of choices you decided to make. It's a combination of situations you decided to stay in. And I know, like I'm saying that, and there's going to be a lot of people that might feel a little bit hurt by that, but it's coming from a place of love. Okay. Please know that. And I think when you can take 100% responsibility, you then take 100% responsibility, control back. Sorry. You
Yes.
take that control back. And when you have that control, it means you have the power to change. And you know, showing up is different because, I will reflect on, if it's okay with you, just a
Yeah.
situation that is
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. Um, I it's actually Aiden, my partner right now. So I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this. I'm sure he won't. But
Yeah.
for so long, you know, I I was like, well, why doesn't he love me? Like, why is he going out? Why doesn't he want to spend time with me? Why him? Why is he doing it? And he wasn't doing anything wrong, right? It was my sense of control that I felt I needed to control the situation. But here's the thing, when you take back that control and you can reflect, okay, what can I do or what do I need in this moment that I can give myself? Why do I want him to stay home with me? Or why am I getting so upset that he's going out on the weekend and not coming home to me? Keep in mind, this was like when I was a little bit young, like
Yeah.
18, 19. I
Yeah.
promise I'm not like that now.
Yeah.
But it's a journey, right? And when I was able to kind of give myself what I wanted or I expected other people to give me, I took back my power. I took back, you know, yeah, I took back my power. And with that, you build self worth, you build self trust. Like, if someone wants to know how you build up your self esteem, your self worth, your self trust, it's keeping the small promises you make to yourself. It is showing up for yourself every single time. If you tell yourself, I'm going to give probably a pretty common example. If you tell yourself you're going to the gym and you
Mhm.
don't do it, you are breaking that trust straight away with yourself. Keep promises to yourself, because when you can show up for yourself in the basic form, you won't let anyone around you not give you basic respect. Because if you can give yourself that, you won't allow that to happen. So I would say just reflect on where you're handing your power over, reflect where you can put in the small steps. It doesn't change overnight. This is such a journey, but reflect on where you can bring back your power and where you can start making those small changes. Where can you start showing up for yourself? Because that's where the power lies. The power lies within you.
That's so beautiful. And as two recovering anxious attachments, as I just learned today
Yeah,
by your
yeah.
story, I was like, yes, I can relate to that 150%.
Yeah.
What's really incredible too is that, like you were saying, kind of like back to the sadness, right? Like if I'm feeling sad, I don't necessarily have to act out of this sadness. I can
Yeah.
detach from it a bit. It's like with all the abandonment wounds and rejection wounds and all those issues that would come up when I was feeling when my partner wasn't like as present as I maybe needed him to be, but all
Yeah.
of that, all of those needs were coming from a place of like me not being able to show up for myself. So I needed him to do it for me. So I was
Yes.
like outsourcing that
Hmm.
reassurance and attention and validation from him, which was not fair
Mm.
to him. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is that when I used to do that, it would create the exact opposite effect. It would push him even further away. It would make him
Yes.
even more distant. And the
Yeah.
second that, like you said, I became aware, I did the work, I understood these patterns, I started changing and behaving differently. And the more I filled my own cup, and the more I learned
Mhm.
how to take care of myself, the more
Mhm.
he came into my life. Now, that's not
Mm.
necessarily true for everyone. Sometimes there's
Yeah.
other relationships that I outgrew. Fortunately, this
Yeah.
was one of them. But
Mhm.
it was incredible to see immediately the shift of like him
Mm.
seeking me out, him messaging
Mm.
me, him making
Mhm.
plans for us to see each other. It's like, shit, I
Mhm.
guess my therapist was right. Like, I guess this was the path to take.
Oh, shit.
Damn
Okay.
it.
Yes, you know.
But it's
Yeah, no,
powerful. Like it's
mm,
such a paradoxical effect. It's like not logical at all. It's not like two
mm,
plus two equals four. It's like
mm.
actually do the exact opposite of what you think you should do. And the thing that you want will now enter your life because you're no longer pushing it away with this like intense,
Mm,
low energy, like just
mhm.
grasp and control that then the person feels like suffocated by.
Yeah, yeah,
And no offense, but it's like who wants to be in a relationship with someone when you feel suffocated by them?
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
pleasant.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%. And I think just to say, if you're listening to this and you're kind of reflecting and you're like, oh shit, that honestly sounds like me, but where do I go from here? I
Yeah.
would, just like remind yourself, I know I keep saying this, but it's a journey. If you
Hmm.
can accept yourself for where you are and start being aware of your patterns,
Hmm.
it's just about taking those small steps.
Yeah.
And, it it's about looking inwards. So don't hate yourself. Don't have that negative spiral inner dialogue that says, okay, well, now I can see that I am the issue. I'm shit. I'm a shit partner. Absolutely not, because the power of our thoughts are more powerful than what you probably realize.
Yeah.
And the mind and everything is just such a powerful place. So just make sure you are speaking kindly to yourself and hold that space for yourself and just accept yourself for where you are. Like I said
Mhm.
before, acceptance for yourself in this moment is the deepest form of self-love. Not going for a bubble bath, not doing a face mask. And yes, I love that too. I do that. I prioritize that quite often because one of my core values is appreciation, and appreciation for me is like, and self-love. It's appreciating the small things, it's slowing down. So for me, self-care is actually a really important thing for me. But self-love at its core is having acceptance for where you are, wherever that is on your journey. Don't feel you have to fix yourself. Just know that you're perfect just the way you are, and you just need to start making those small changes.
That's such a beautiful reminder because I think you're right. Like at the time when we're really in the thick of it and we
Mm,
listen to other people like talking about what it is that, like these dynamics that we were chatting about, right?
yeah.
When you're really in the thick of these dynamics, it's so difficult because in a sense, you know that there's something that you're doing that's messing up the thing that you want, but you have no
Yeah.
idea exactly what, like, you just lack that awareness of what it is, and
Yeah.
you lack that like clear roadmap of how to get out
Mhm,
of that,
mhm.
and it can feel so isolating. I remember
Yeah.
feeling so crazy and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I remember I'd go to friends for advice, but I was like, but I don't actually want them to know like how intense and how obsessive and how,
Yeah. Mhm,
insane I feel when I do get triggered and I do get anxious. And there's just so much shame still around those kinds of
mm,
like behaviors and how people show up.
mhm,
And this is like kind of on topic, but I'm thinking too, like, I'm curious what you think. Sometimes I get mixed feelings about the whole like talking about like what red flags are in a relationship and like what toxic signs are in a relationship because I think it's really
mm,
helpful, right? Like in a sense
mhm,
that if you're in a relationship where you feel like something's off and you know something's
mhm,
off, but you don't know how to describe it, you read this list of red
mhm,
flags, you feel like you're reading your partner and you're like, okay, good, I'm not crazy, like something is off, right? But at the
mhm,
same
mhm,
time, for someone that's like really going through it and for someone who has the toxic behaviors in the way that I'll say that I did, it can
mhm.
be like just so like you're already coming from a place of shame and guilt. It can be so immensely, it could just feel horrible to read a list of like what a toxic partner is and like read yourself
Mm.
and be like, oh wow, I really am as horrible as I thought I was. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an
I'm curious what
interesting
your
one.
thoughts are about that.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting one because I'm trying to take myself back to when I would have read a list that identified that I was probably a bit of a cray-cray girlfriend. And I'm also taking myself back to when my partner cheated on me and
Hmm.
how that is a big red flag. And
Hmm.
I'm reflecting on that and now taking me to where I am now. And yeah, I don't know, it's a tricky one because
It's a
I
tricky
honestly
one.
it is a very much so a tricky one. And I think this is not including any physical violence, anything like that, any like verbal abuse, all that type of stuff. Like I think that's a whole other ball game, and I don't. Um,
We're not touching that right now.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um, just so to preface, I don't want to say,
Yeah.
it's all fine, just stay in that. No.
Yeah. No, no, no.
But for me, I think everyone is so unique. I
Hmm.
think everyone goes through their life with different core values, different core beliefs. We're not supposed to be the same. And
Hmm.
I think it's finding that great balance of what you value and how you expect people to act or be because that's who you are, and
Hmm.
understanding and having acceptance that that person is not you. That
Yeah.
person may have different core values. You may share some, which I hope in a sense you do in a relationship because that's really important, but they
Yeah.
have their own experiences, they have their own beliefs, and more often than not, um, all like sorry, my brain is going crazy because I actually want to touch on something, but I don't want to go too left field. But I think it's important to understand that everyone is perceiving the world through their own lens based on their own core values and beliefs. And I think when we can have acceptance that people are going to act different in different situations,
Mhm.
I think you can have more acceptance on how people are supposed to act.
Yeah.
However, in saying that, I truly believe your body doesn't lie.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, of course there's anxiety and you feel aroused and stuff, but if you can get yourself back into a regulated state and something does not sit right, you feel off, your intuition is kind of going off, there's that little voice that's like, this isn't safe, you deserve more, this isn't the right person for you. I think trust it, right? But I also don't think go, right, we're not the right match. We're not the right match. See you later. It's
It's
working
such
on
a
it. It's
fine
coming to those
line.
common ground.
Yeah.
It is very
Yeah.
fine line. Yeah.
It's a fine line. And that's why, you know what, my earlier comment, I was thinking about it. I'm like, why did I make that comment? And it's because I have an issue. Like when I was going through all this, there wasn't the social media mental health that there is now. It just
Yeah.
didn't exist. And so
Mhm.
a lot of the information that I found, I had to go find through like, talking to my therapist or like reading these like Psychology Today
Mhm.
articles, which like no one really reads anymore because we're all on social media. But it's
Yeah.
just so tricky. Like I'm reading this book right now about the effects of social media on teenagers. This is why
Mhm.
this is on my mind. But
Sure.
it's just so tricky. And I think this is why I love podcasting a lot more, or I love the idea
Mhm.
of being like, listen, if you do read like a short little social media post, just be aware that someone is putting a very complex concept into a very
Mhm.
short piece of content.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
cannot take that little piece of content and just like completely apply it to yourself because it might be out of
Yeah.
context. It may not apply to
Yes.
you in your situation. Like you're so
Mhm.
right. You see something, maybe you see a piece of content that's like, you need to learn how to regulate your anxiety, but like, what if your anxiety is actually telling you that you're in an unsafe relationship that you should
Mm.
get out
Mhm.
of? And that's why I think
Yeah.
it's really important to take little posts. We make them for our social media to put out
Yeah.
content that helps people, but it's like take that post, take it with a grain of salt, and if you really
Mhm.
have an issue with it or it really brought up some feelings for you, bring it to a professional that can help unpack it with you
Mm.
or
Mhm.
listen to a longer conversation like this that's like a little
Yeah.
bit more nuanced and a little bit more of
Yes.
like these concepts are not rules, they're concepts
Mhm.
that need to then be applied contextually to different situations. I think that's the disclaimer I wanted to give of like,
Yes.
that's kind of what we're chatting about.
Yeah, no, I think you said that perfectly. Like, take it as spark of inspiration to look deeper.
Yeah.
Take it as awareness. Don't take it as the Bible of this here is exactly what I need to do to fix my problems. This here is saying that this person is a bad person. Yep, that
Yeah.
is 100% true. Because it's not, like you
Yeah.
said, take it. If you're reading something and it's sparking something inside you, get curious. Like I
Yeah.
can't stress that enough. If you get curious about your triggers, what your emotions are telling you, what your body is trying to tell you, they are literally the guiding lights that will help you on your path. Getting curious, having awareness, and diving deep.
Oh, I love that. I think I'm just gonna end it on that because this was such a great conversation and I could chat with you for so long, but I'm mindful of your time and of the time of people listening to us. And I
Yeah,
just
of
want to
course.
thank you. I feel like you told me that you were a teacher, and I'm like, yes, I witnessed it. Like, I learned so much. We covered so many topics, and it was so helpful. And the way in which you're able to, because it's not an easy thing, y'all. Like, I'm just saying this as someone who does this for a living as well. Like, it's not an easy, it's taken a lot of years of practice to be able to take such dense, profound, complex concepts, understand them,
Mm.
and then be able to spit them out as clearly as you articulated them. So, kudos to
Oh,
you. Thank you for doing that. I think it was
thank
super
you.
helpful for
Appreciate
those
that.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Tell us, where can people find you?
Yeah, of course. So, probably the best place to find and connect with me is on Instagram. So, it's just Rebekah Boone. Come and chat. That's where you can find me on social media. And, if you want to work with me or work in a closer proximity, just send me a message. I love chatting. I love helping. I'm a very big giver. So don't be afraid to come and, yeah, have a chat and connect.
She is. Thank you so much. And for those of you listening, definitely go check out Rebekah. She puts up a lot of great posts that I always find very inspiring. And if you like what you heard, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. Please feel free to do all the things like follow, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tune in weekly. I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.